They're kind of cool.
I mean, yeah, it's novelty for a minute. And so we realized, I mean, it was a serious endeavor. What's that? Yeah, lady. She's 93 too, so she was.
Oh, I think the wood chuck.
Oh, no. We all have to help figure out what to do with the wood
Yeah.
chuck.
Oh.
I don't think the wood chuck is 93. Oh.
Shorewood's got some long chucks.
Oh, funny.
Is anyone calling in for the meeting?
No one's calling in for this meeting. So everyone's calling at 7:25. So I told Sarah, I have the speaker or the phone on charge, and so then we'll just bring it out here at 7:25. And I tested the call-in number this afternoon because I'm always paranoid about stuff that could work. And
We can put a guided speaker there.
yeah,
It'll.
so everything seems to be working, so we should be good. So so just before 7:25, we're going to grab that phone. Because I just asked people to call in a little bit earlier, and they can just stay on mute or whatever until we get started, so that you
Okay.
don't have to.
Great. Should we? I'd like to call this committee of the whole meeting to order. The time is 6:08. Has this meeting been publicly noticed?
The meeting has been posted and noticed according to law.
Thank you. We have 2 trustees and myself present today. It's Trustee Warren, Trustee Carpenter, President Rozak. All others are excused. The first item on our agenda today is to review our second quarter financial report and try to get through it by 7:20. I have a lot of questions just as we're preparing for budget season. If you have questions about something that's in here or even in general about the topic, feel free to ask so we can, basically this is your budget and it's the second quarter for this year. So Mark?
Thank you. Well, as it so happens, you know, as the broader schedules come out, I made a point of talking to Rebecca saying, I really don't want to wait until September 4th to release the second quarter financial report. Why don't I get it ready? Let's email it out to trustees so they have plenty of time to look it over, whatever, ask questions, and we'll agenda it, you know, for discussion whenever we could. And here we are, you know, a week and a half later, and we're ready to go. So, glad that worked out well. What I try to do as the year progresses, you know, there's really not much to comment on in the first quarter. There's so many different things going on. But come the second quarter, we can start to get a little bit more of a sense for how things are trending. I generally tell everybody that by and large the budget's going pretty much according to plan. Because of the 800 line items, probably 760 of them are right on target. But then I do summarize in narrative a few things that are of interest to me, and I think they'll be of interest to the board, not so much on a percentage basis, but on dollar amounts, or because, you know, we know we're going to be thinking about things, getting ready to go into the budget season. So I did do that for this report as well. You know, I highlighted, we can go through my highlights if you'd like to start there, or if you've read them, we can just start on the budget pages and flip pages. What's your preference?
Does anybody have a preference? Has everyone read them? Or do you want to go over?
If you read my general notes, and I'd say let's just start on the line item pages and ask questions. You want to start on page 4?
Sure.
And then you can certainly do the questions or comments or whatever you come up with. And
Can we just start by saying the page number we're on?
4.
Oh, no, I'm just saying like as we go forward.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because I printed out a copy because the last time when we did it, it was like jumping all
So
over.
page 4 is the general fund summary. It's a big roll up. Again, I'm not sure about the insights you can gather on that, but the thing about this page is on the bottom of this page, it does identify the various assignments of fund balances that the village has in place. There are no restricted fund balances in the general fund. Then we have the estimated unassigned and some percentages that go with that as well. At the very bottom, one of the benchmarks we look at for.
When you say unassigned, is that just our reserves, our general reserves?
Yes. That is reserves that are available under a village policy for cash flow and unanticipated responses to changing environments, which is benchmarked at 30% as a minimum, and above and beyond that is more supplemental reserve.
So every year when we do long-range plan, we get a number that is, that we know we're gonna need to stabilize our debt, so we get a number, and then we budget that number. So why is that not it's not in assigned, it's in a different line item then?
Well, when we do the 2019 budget, it will be assigned. For the 2018 budget, that is called other financing sources as a revenue, and other financing uses as an expense. Okay. And then right below that, right below the bottom line total, that's surplus applied. So that's how those numbers apply in the financial statements. It repeats itself 3 times. Because we're not using new money, we're using existing funds, existing reserves.
Okay.
Great.
Trustee Warren.
Quick question, I just want to make sure I'm reading the document correctly, and this is my first time through the process, so maybe it's a basic question, but I want to make sure that I grasp the concept. So you have revenues, which is money obviously coming into the village. You have expenditures, which is money going out. And then as you read down, you have the beginning fund balance, ending fund balance. I'm assuming when we talk about fund balance, that's essentially the village's savings account. That's money that we have in the bank. Am I reading that correctly, or is it something else that we're referring to there?
In the general fund, that would be effectively correct.
Okay.
Not precisely, but effective.
Okay. Just want to make sure. Thank you.
Trustee Carpenter.
So in that general fund summary, and kind of this similar question, so looking at where we are year to date, in the intergovernmental, it says that we're about 32%, and then there was, the other revenues are at 34%. So I just want to make sure, are we, in those 2 line items, are we concerned with where those 2 line items are as far as revenue for the year? Like, should they be a little bit higher, or?
Well, nothing in my memory jumps out that would
Okay.
cause me for concern, but as we get to some more details behind this, there are going to be some supplemental notes that
Right.
will talk about the payments that don't come into September. So they're not reflected here, but we understand that drives down the percentages.
Okay.
When do you fill in, Mark, I can't remember, the projected line, is that just for 4th quarter?
A projected line is prepared by department heads and staff in preparation of the following year's budget. And then those numbers will be available in the 3rd quarter financial report, as well as updated for 4th quarter.
So before we do budget, will we have projected numbers?
Projected numbers come out with budget.
Oh, they come out in the budget. Okay, so it'll be like our 3rd quarter, but not really yet 3rd quarter.
It would be in that name, yeah.
Okay.
That neighborhood.
Excellent. And then I just had 2 other questions on this page. For communications and marketing at the bottom, could we use, since it says the word communications, can that be used for things like mailers for communicating?
Yeah, that was the intent when we closed the marketing fund,
Great.
or marketing communications fund last year. To designate that should we have the need to use things that either in the budget, we use those funds to support those in the general fund budget because they were legacy reserves for that purpose from the marketing.
Okay.
So,
I'm just wondering, because we always talk about that certain line item, and we always say, oh, we've already done 3 mailings, but there is money, I'm assuming we can use it here. And then my general question about unassigned fund balance, are we allowed by law to have unassigned fund balance? Every time I hear it, they say you can't carry over unassigned money, but,
Well, unassigned without purpose, and our purpose is stating what our
Okay.
policies state what our purposes is and our minimums. It does not say that there's a maximum to that, so implicitly, anything above our minimum is for the same purpose.
okay.
So that's the,
What would they
That's-
mean by an unassigned balance that you're not allowed to carry over?
if you had no statement of need for the funds, like if you didn't have a policy that says, we're going to use carryover reserves for cash flow management and unforeseen contingencies,
So just that line, okay.
then technically you've got no stated purpose for those funds, and you could, I've seen many attorneys discuss that with very little resolution, but
Yeah, I mean, they just keep saying it every time I go somewhere.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
At the league, and I don't know what, I mean, we have a huge balance. Okay, thank you. Do either of you have questions for, on page 4?
I'm good on this page.
Okay, then we'll go to page 5.
Right.
Wait.
Awesome,
Yeah.
I'm in. So
Lovely.
here's again, a detailed revenues, but the revenues are summarized, they're not spread out throughout the budget like your normal budget presentation. So they're detailed revenues in that each line item is accounted for, but they're summarized because they're aggregated in one place. Here on the right, you'll see some of those notes as far as, when some of these revenues, state shared revenue, for example, right about the middle of the page, received in November. We don't have it yet. Again, that pushes down our intergovernmental revenue percentage-wise because those funds just haven't come in yet. But we expect to happen. We've got all the proper notices that says they're coming. So,
For 4th of July, I'm still confused. I thought we had a celebrations budget. Did we get rid of that?
yeah, we already did that a couple years ago.
Okay. So now it falls under board, correct?
Right. The board budgeted for the 4th of July. The
Expense for the.
bike race was shared by our bid partner, and the summer concerts is hosted now by the school rec department.
And we don't hold those accounts, just the
No.
4th of July? Okay, so we didn't adopt any revenue for 4th of July. Was the donation from Shorewood Foundation unexpected?
The way we budget for events has typically been, or at least since I've been here the last 4.5 years, is that you budget for the net expense, and then the event is scaled to match your revenues. So if revenues are good, you can have a very robust event. If revenues are not so good, you would scale down the event to match so that your net cost for the event doesn't exceed the funds that are originally designated, typically for the event coordination. So the event activities are intended to be funded through sponsorships and other donations.
But we budgeted 7,500 and our revenue line says 23,150.
Yes,
So that means that we raised
23,100.
and we expected to spend only 7,500?
We expected to spend, if we raised hypothetically 23,150, we would spend up to $30,650 for a net cost of $7,500. That is budget neutral,
Okay.
because we have the revenues to offset the event expenses plus the $7,500 that we're kicking in for organizational type.
For going forward, and not that we have a lot of events, but it doesn't, if every other line item in here is the full expense and the full revenue, and then you have an overage or an underage. So for me to figure out the over or under, like every other line item, I would expect that you just put all the expenses in the expense line and all the revenue in the revenue line.
Well, as you look at the village board's budget, you will see them
Okay,
next to each other, or at least on the
Okay.
same page. It's only in this roll-up that it seems a little.
okay,
And we don't budget for the expenses because, again, you know, in the ideal situation, they're variable. So the successful event is not whether we spent 20,000 or 30,000, it's make sure that we only spent 7,500 of village funds or less. Obviously, you know, within certain, I mean, you want more than one band, but does 30 bands make it a better parade?
right, I see what you're saying.
Yeah. I mean, that's just the practice we follow. We budget for net expenses and then they vote against each other and I put it in the financial report.
Got it.
We're good.
So as long as we only spend $750, which is what we budget
Yeah.
as an expense.
Yeah.
Somewhere it'll show us if we're over or under though.
Yep,
Okay.
that's always in my reports.
That's all I had. Does anyone have anything for this page? Okay. Moving on to page 6. Media and finance. Do we know, Mark, for parking fines, I assume this is how much we've collected?
Correct.
209. And do we have a list of how many we've issued as we're getting closer to honing in on